It wasn't the knocking that scared me, it was that it stopped every time I said my name. 3 dull thuds at the edge of the house. Not a fist pounding, not a polite knock. Something slow, something patient, like it had been there long before I noticed. The storm outside pressed hard against the windows, black rain sliding down the glass like oil. My phone's glow was the only light in the living room. I was scrolling without reading, flicking my thumb just to make a sound, any sound. The porch light flickered again. It does that sometimes. I've told myself that for years, but that night, the flicker felt like a warning. The first knock I ignored. The second made me lower my phone. By the third, my heart was already moving faster than my fingers. Knock, knock, knock. It came in a rhythm that didn't belong to the house. The hum of the refrigerator, the creak of the old pipes, the thunder, all of that had its own music. This was something else, something that had been waiting. I stood up slowly, like if I moved too fast it would know. The hall stretched long, shadows moving where they shouldn't. I called out, "Hello?" And the knocking stopped instantly. Silence. Real silence, where you can hear your own pulse in your ears. I took a step closer to the door. No peephole, just the frosted window above it. I could see the porch light stutter and hum, rain flicking against the glass. No one was there. I whispered my name to calm myself. And the moment my name left my lips, 3 soft knocks answered from inside the wall next to me. I froze. When I inhaled, the knocks came. When I held my breath, the knocks paused. When I whispered, "Stop," they stopped. It was listening. My legs started moving before my mind caught up. I backed into the living room, my phone's flashlight throwing trembling cones of light across the walls. The hum of the fridge had turned into a low growl in my ears. I could hear the storm like a heartbeat, every drop of rain louder than it should be. Another knock. But now it was coming from the far wall. Then another knock, closer. It was moving, following me like something crawling behind the drywall. And then it used the rhythm. 3 knocks, pause, 1 final tap. That rhythm. I hadn't heard it in years. When I was little, my dad would knock on my bedroom wall every night before bed. 3 soft knocks, pause, a single tap. Our little code. His way of saying, time to sleep. I'd knock back twice to say goodnight. The night before he died, I knocked back and he never answered. Now, in a house he'd never stepped inside, in the middle of a storm, I was hearing the exact same rhythm from inside my walls. I pressed my palm against the cold paint. I whispered, "Dad?" Silence. Then, 1 single knock from directly behind me. I spun around. Empty room. Just the rain, the hum, the flicker of the light. Another knock, slower, heavier, keeping time with my heartbeat now. My breath started to shake. I felt it in my ribs. I could almost feel the wood move under my hand, like something brushing against the other side. I stayed there until the storm died. The knocking stopped, but the silence stayed wrong, like the house was still holding its breath. Morning came gray and thin. I went outside, barefoot on wet grass, to the place where the sound had been loudest. The paint was chipped, tiny round dents beneath it, 4 small marks, knuckle-shaped. I didn't tell anyone. Who'd believe me? The walls knocked back. Days passed. Nothing. Weeks. Then one night, just as I was drifting off to sleep, I heard it again. A faint tapping, not from the walls, from the ceiling. I whispered my name. It didn't stop. Instead, it slowed down, matched my breathing perfectly. Inhale, knock. Exhale, knock. It wasn't copying me anymore. It had remembered. It had been practicing. Now I hear it when I'm not home. In hallways, in hotel rooms, in the quiet of a train station at night. A soft, patient knock. 3 times. Pause. 1 tap. Like someone keeping time with a song only we know. I don't think it wants to hurt me. I think it just wants to be let in. It knows my rhythm. It knows my name. It waits. It wasn't the knocking that scared me. It was that it remembered. And tonight, as I write this, I can hear it again. Not from the walls, from the inside of my chest. Knock, 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 tap. It's learned my heartbeat. It's not knocking anymore. It's calling me home. Story 2. You trust your camera to capture what you can't see. I wish mine hadn't. It started as a test. I just bought this new home security camera. One of those tiny, sleek ones that sits on your desk and links straight to your phone. I told myself it was for peace of mind. I was living alone for the first time. Small apartment near campus, creaky pipes and thin walls. I didn't realize peace of mind meant watching myself sleep. The first night I set it up, I angled it toward the door. The little red light blinked like a heartbeat. I thought it looked reassuring. I was wrong. Morning came, and I checked the footage out of curiosity. 10 hours of nothing, me tossing, turning, mumbling in my sleep. The camera stayed perfectly still the whole time. It was boring, the kind of boring that makes you trust a thing. For a few days I stopped checking the recordings. I'd let them pile up. But then one night, around 3 a.m., my phone buzzed with a motion alert. I remember it clearly because I wasn't asleep yet. The alert came while I was staring at the camera. No movement, no sound, but my phone said the lens had detected something. I laughed it off, waved at it like an idiot, said, "Hey, guess that's me." The light blinked once like it understood. The next morning, there were 3 short clips saved automatically. I hadn't pressed record. Each was only a few seconds long. In the first one, I was lying still, completely asleep. The frame was slightly tilted, just a few degrees off from where I'd left it. The second clip started about an hour later. The camera's angle had shifted again, this time pointing lower toward my hands. The third one, just static, 2 seconds of it. I told myself I must have bumped the desk in my sleep, but the desk was against the wall. The following night, I set it back upright, centered it perfectly, and went to bed. I remember saying out loud, half joking, "Stay." The red light blinked twice. Around 2 in the morning, I woke up thirsty. The room was still, quiet except for the hum of the fridge. I checked my phone again. Another motion alert, time-stamped just 1 minute before I'd opened my eyes. When I watched the footage, the frame made no sense. The camera had turned, not by much, just enough that I wasn't fully in view anymore. But it had done that before I moved. I stared at the timecode, at my still body breathing in the dark, and then, mid-recording, the image tilted. Slowly, gently, like someone had reached out and adjusted it. I didn't sleep that night. By morning, I'd convinced myself there had to be a glitch. Maybe a temperature change, maybe vibration from the street outside. But part of me wanted to know what would happen if I let it run again. That's the problem with curiosity. It doesn't care if you're scared. The next evening, I set it up again, but this time I angled a mirror across from it so I could see the whole room in reflection. I wanted proof of something real. At 3:24 a.m., I woke to another alert. My throat was dry, my chest tight. I looked at the camera. It was facing the mirror now, not me. The red light blinked directly into its own reflection. I didn't move, didn't breathe, just stared until my eyes watered. When I finally checked the footage the next morning, I noticed something that made me shut off the app right away. For one frame, just one, the reflection didn't match. I was still lying down in bed, eyes closed, but in the mirror I was sitting up, looking straight at the camera. I deleted the file immediately, or I thought I did. That night when I opened the app again, it was back. The same clip, the same frame, except now it was a few seconds longer. The reflection of me, no, the other me, slowly raised a hand and waved. And then the audio clicked on. A whisper. Just one word, smile. I stopped using the camera after that. Unplugged it, shoved it in the drawer, but the alerts didn't stop. Every few nights, my phone would buzz, motion detected. Even though the camera was off, I factory reset it, changed passwords, deleted the app. The alerts still came. A week later, I woke up to find the camera back on my desk. The light was blinking again. I hadn't touched it. I told myself maybe I'd forgotten, maybe I'd plugged it back in and didn't remember. Stress does that, right? But then I saw the app icon back on my phone. I hadn't reinstalled it. When I opened it, there were new videos waiting. Each one labeled with that same single word, smile. I didn't want to, but I watched. In every clip, I was asleep. The frame looked normal for the first few seconds. Then, faintly, from behind the camera, someone whispered, smile, and my sleeping face did. Not a full grin, just the corners of my mouth twitching upward, like a puppet's first attempt at expression. I thought I'd lose my mind. I smashed the camera with a hammer, threw it in the dumpster, wiped my phone completely. But that same night, while lying in bed, I felt something different. The air had that charged silence, like when someone's watching you. My eyes stayed shut. I told myself not to move, and then, faintly, I heard it again. Click. That tiny mechanical shutter sound. I opened my eyes. Nothing. Darkness. Then, from the corner, a red blink. I didn't own another camera. I moved out the next day. New apartment, new locks, no devices with lenses. Until one morning, I woke up to the sound of my phone buzzing. A message. No sender name, just a single attachment. It was a photo. Me, asleep in my new bedroom. The angle was perfect, slightly tilted, same as before. In the reflection of the window behind me, there was movement. Someone standing over the bed, holding a phone. I threw mine across the room. It hit the wall, screen cracked but still glowing. Another message came through. Don't break this one. I stopped sleeping after that. Stayed awake for 3 days straight, lights on, curtains drawn. My own reflection started to look wrong in the mirror. Too pale, too tired, eyes half a second behind the rest of me. On the fourth night, exhaustion won. I passed out at my desk. When I woke up, my phone was charging neatly beside me, screen unlocked. There was a new folder in my gallery. It was named Live. Inside were dozens of short videos, different nights, different angles. All of me sleeping. The timestamps were from the past 3 days, days I hadn't slept at all. In the last clip, the camera panned slowly toward my face. I wasn't moving. But behind me, in the corner of the frame, someone was. A shadowed outline, shoulders hunched, head tilted toward the lens. As it leaned closer, the audio crackled, breathing. Then that same whisper, closer than ever. Smile. The image froze on my face, eyes open, mouth pulled wide, teeth bare. I hadn't smiled like that in years. The file looped itself. Each time it replayed, the smile widened pixel by pixel until the corners of my lips reached the edge of the frame. Then the screen went black. Now, when I try to record anything, on my phone, my laptop, even my voice, the same distortion appears. That faint red blink, that whisper beneath the static. I tried to talk to someone about it once. A friend. She laughed, said I was overworked, said everyone gets paranoid living alone. So I showed her the video. She didn't laugh again. She just stared at it for a long time, her face frozen, like she was listening to something I couldn't hear. When I touched her shoulder, she turned to me and said, quietly, "It's asking me to smile too." I don't use any cameras anymore. No phones, no webcams. I live in the quiet part of town where there's barely a signal. I keep mirrors covered, just in case. But sometimes, late at night, I still hear it. That faint shutter sound. That soft whisper. It doesn't even need the lens anymore. It knows my breathing now. It waits for the pauses between each inhale. That's when it moves. Sometimes I wake up and my phone is on, even though it's not connected to anything. The screen shows a red dot in the corner. Recording. I don't check the footage anymore. I already know what it would show. Me, asleep. The camera turning on its own. And somewhere, right before the static fades, that same voice whispering, almost gentle, "Smile." Now I keep hearing that word in my dreams. And every time I wake up, my jaw aches, like I've been grinning all night. You trust your camera to capture what you can't see. I wish mine hadn't. Story 3. It wasn't the voice that scared me, it was what it said after. The power went out around 11. I was home alone, the kind of night where the world outside feels heavier, darker than it should. Rain had been falling all afternoon, and the wind rattled the old windows. I pulled my phone from the charger and switched on the flashlight, the narrow beam of light barely cutting through the shadows of my living room. I was scrolling absent-mindedly, trying not to think about how quiet the house was, when I heard it. A faint sound, almost like a whisper coming from the floor vent near the hallway. I froze. It was so soft I almost thought it was the wind, or the house settling. But then I heard it again. This time, a single word. My name. I swallowed. The beam of light shook slightly in my hand. "Hello?" I whispered back, more to convince myself than anything else. Silence. Only the hum of the phone, the low creak of the floorboards under my weight. I laughed nervously. Okay, weird draft, nothing else. I told myself that, but I couldn't shake the feeling that the vent was listening. I walked closer, the whisper came again, softer but unmistakable. "I'm here." I froze. My mouth went dry. The voice wasn't angry, it wasn't loud, but it carried a weight that made the air around me feel heavier, like the shadows themselves were pressing in closer. I whispered my own sentence. "I don't know who's there." And a pause later, the voice repeated it, not word for word exactly, but in tone and rhythm, almost mocking. I stumbled backward, heart hammering. My mind raced. Surely it was a neighbor's prank, or maybe my brain playing tricks in the darkness. But then it spoke again, faster this time, clearer. "I don't know who's there." I turned in a circle, shining my phone's light on every corner of the room, every shadow, every inch of the floor. Nothing. The vents, the walls, even the ceiling. The house was empty. I thought about calling someone, anyone, but my phone had no signal. Typical. The storm outside must have knocked it out. I tried to calm myself, telling myself it was a parlor trick of my imagination. But when I spoke again, asking a silly question about the weather, the voice answered before I could even finish. "The storm is heavy tonight," it whispered, perfectly mimicking my tone, almost like it had been recording me for hours. I couldn't breathe. My own words came out of the vent, delayed, warped slightly, but unmistakably mine. I backed toward the couch, leaning against the cushions. The flashlight beam bounced wildly as I tried to track any movement. The vent, the source of the sound, was just a metal grate set into the floor. Nothing else. No shadows, no flicker of a figure. And yet, it kept repeating. It repeated everything I said. It even started completing my sentences before I could finish them. I didn't notice how long I'd been standing there until the voice paused. It didn't repeat me anymore. Instead, it said something new. "I'm done learning." I froze, my fingers tightening around the phone. The room felt utterly silent. The hum of the fridge, the creak of the house, even the rain seemed to vanish. My throat went dry. I whispered again, shakily, What do you mean?" No answer, not at first. Then a metallic echo slithered through the vent, a soft, chilling laugh that wasn't human. Or at least, it wasn't anyone I had ever known. My stomach sank. I stumbled backward, tripping over the rug, hitting the wall. The flashlight clattered to the floor, rolling slightly before landing on its side. A thin line of light traced the outline of the vent. The shadows inside seemed to shift, like smoke curling from an invisible source. I tried to convince myself it was just the storm, the old heating ducts, the metal expanding and contracting in the cold. But the voice knew my words, my patterns, my pauses. It had been listening. I whispered another question, trying to test it. "Are you gone?" The vent stayed silent for a heartbeat. Then, slowly, deliberately, the voice answered, "No." I screamed, small, helpless, a sound swallowed immediately by the walls. My body shook, sweat cold against my skin. I couldn't think. I couldn't move. I just stared at that metal grate, waiting, and then it started again. It whispered my sentences, faster, clearer, almost gleeful in its mimicry. But now it wasn't just repeating, it was answering, conversing, mocking. "What do you want?" I whispered. "I want to stay," it said. "Stay?" My voice trembled. "Yes, stay, watch, listen." The air grew colder. I could see my breath curling in front of me. I stumbled backward, my flashlight beam swinging wildly. Every surface of the room seemed to warp under the shadows, corners stretching just slightly beyond what was natural. I backed into the kitchen, my hand brushing against the counter. I tried to tell myself it was all a dream, a trick of fatigue, but the metallic echo of the laughter cut through that rational thought like ice. I fell to my knees, flashlight clattering again, and then it spoke in a softer tone, almost gentle this time. "Why are you afraid?" I couldn't answer. I couldn't move. A sound like metal scraping across the vents made me flinch. The voice came again, repeating the words I thought in my mind. "I want it out of here. I want it gone." It chuckled, low and resonant, mocking me, almost sadistic. I crawled across the floor, dragging my phone, trying to reach the hall to the stairs. But the vent I had walked past a dozen times that evening, sounded different now. Louder, closer. It was like the air itself was vibrating, sending the voice directly into my chest. I whispered, barely audible, "Please, just leave me alone." The response came instantly. "No. You taught me too much. Now I choose." I screamed. Real, full-body scream, but it didn't seem to matter. The sound echoed in the walls, bouncing back to me as though the house itself had swallowed it and returned it with amusement. I scrambled for the stairs. My phone slipped, skittering across the hardwood. The light landed on the vent again. And that's when I saw it, or thought I saw it. A shadow, deeper than the darkness around it, twisting inside the vent grate. It pulsed with the voice, like it was alive, breathing in rhythm with the words it spoke. "It's in the ducts," I whispered to myself, voice trembling. My heartbeat thundered in my ears. The voice laughed again, metallic, echoing, layered. It wasn't in any one place, it was everywhere. In the walls, the floor, the vents, in my own chest. I climbed the stairs two at a time, fumbling for the flashlight, my fingers numb. Reaching my bedroom, I locked the door, slid the dresser in front of it. The laughter didn't stop. The whispers continued. Every time I spoke, it answered, repeating, mocking, sometimes finishing my thoughts in ways I hadn't even said aloud. I tried calling my parents, the police, anyone. No signal. My phone kept buzzing with phantom alerts, nothing visible on the screen. I hid under the blankets, shaking. Each breath was a battle. Each shadow in the room looked like it could contain that same pulsing darkness from the vent. Hours passed, or maybe minutes. I don't know. Time seemed to stretch and warp. Finally, I whispered to myself, "Please, leave." For the first time in what felt like eternity, the silence returned. Not complete silence, though. A low, vibrating hum remained, the vent itself trembling slightly, as if alive. I stayed awake the rest of the night. Flashlight pressed to my chest, every sound amplified, the wind, the rain, the settling of the house. Morning light was a relief, but not a true one. I went down to the basement cautiously to inspect the vent. Nothing, just a metal grate. Cold air coming from the ducts, ordinary, safe, but I knew I could feel it. The voice had learned me, memorized my words, my tone, my pauses, and now it could choose. I moved out shortly after. New apartment, higher floor, smaller, no basement, no vents connecting to anything. It worked for a while. No strange voices, no shadows, no whispers. I slept at night, finally, until the other night. I woke to hear a faint hum. Not my air conditioning, not the city outside. It was a low drone, almost imperceptible, but it made my chest vibrate. I froze. The hum grew louder. Then, clear and unmistakable, a whisper. It wasn't the voice that scared me. I shivered, breath caught in my throat. It was what it said after. The words echoed, distorted, coming from, I don't know where. The ducts, the walls, somewhere I cannot see. I couldn't move, couldn't speak. The metallic echo lingered, stretched, warped. It was patient, knowing I would remember. I told myself it was a dream, a memory twisted by fear. But then it spoke again, just a soft murmur, barely audible. I'm done learning. The room went silent, but I can feel it, still, watching, waiting in the vents, laughing in the metal. Every time I speak, it listens. Every pause, every hesitation, it records. And one day, it will answer. It wasn't the voice that scared me. It was what it said after. And tonight, I know it's still here. Story 4, I saw my number calling me. It said, "Pick up." At first, I thought it was a prank. The kind of thing that happens when you scroll social media too late at night, when the world outside your window is quiet and your mind starts playing tricks. I was alone, bored, lying on my couch, thumb lazily flicking through the endless feed of faces, memes, and half-forgotten updates. My phone vibrated against the fabric of the cushion, and when I glanced down, my heart skipped. It was my number. My own number, lighting up the screen. I stared at it, blinked, looked again. Pick up. No one ever calls me. My friends text, my family rarely calls, and yet there it was, a single vibration, the screen glowing with a white, insistent light. I hesitated, thinking maybe it was a glitch. Phones do glitch sometimes. Maybe a software hiccup. I ignored it. It rang again 10 minutes later, same number, same insistent buzz. My thumb hovered, trembling slightly above the green answer button. Pick up. The display didn't lie. It was me calling me. I pressed the power button, turning the screen off, telling myself it was nothing, nothing at all. But then I noticed something. The vibration didn't stop. Even when the screen was off, I could feel it in my hand. Pulsing, insistent. By the next night, the calls had become more regular. 3 a.m., then 2:50, 2:40. Each one arriving sooner than the last, each one louder, closer, impossible to ignore. I started recording them, just in case. My voice echoed back in the voicemail. My own words, captured, repeated, whispered in the same tone I had used moments ago. I listened, thinking maybe I had left the recorder on by accident, but it wasn't like that. It wasn't my phone recording. It was something else, something that knew me. Each call seemed deliberate. The dial tone stretched into a long, low hum before the call connected. And then at first, silence. But if I listened closely, a whisper, my own voice, saying my name, asking questions I had only just thought of. Pick up. The words never stopped. They followed me into the kitchen, the bathroom, the hallway. The sound came from the speaker but felt inside my chest. My heartbeat started to sync with it. One pulse, one vibration, one whisper repeating in time with my own rhythm. I tried ignoring it. Tried turning off the phone, throwing it across the room. It didn't matter. Every time the battery died, every time I thought I was safe, it buzzed back to life, illuminated with my own number. Insistent. Demanding. Then came the last call. It didn't ring, it didn't vibrate, it answered itself. The screen went black, the call icon glowing faintly in the dim light. And then I heard it, unmistakable, my own voice, but wrong. Warped, slow, and deep. "You shouldn't have picked up," it said. The sound of my own voice sent a shiver through me, echoing a heartbeat directly through the phone speaker. My hand flew to my chest, my breath caught in my throat. It was alive. The phone was alive. My own number had become something else. Something patient, watching, waiting for me to make a mistake. I dropped the phone. It didn't hit the ground. It stayed hovering in the air, screen glowing faintly, vibrating softly, almost like it was breathing. The call duration showed 9:59, 9 minutes and 59 seconds, and yet I had not touched it, not once. I picked it up cautiously, my fingers trembling. The phone felt warm, too warm, like it was pulsing, alive beneath my skin. I whispered, barely audible, "It's still connected." A low hum filled the room, not from the phone, not from the walls, from everywhere. I could feel the vibration in my chest, the air around me thickening with static. My reflection in the darkened TV flickered strangely, and for a moment I swore I saw the screen glow from inside my own eyes. Every instinct screamed to throw the phone, smash it, destroy it, but I couldn't. Some part of me, a deep, irrational part, knew it wouldn't end it. It would only continue, waiting, learning, sharpening. I tried sleeping. Tried leaving the phone in another room, tried blocking my number, changing SIM cards, even buying a new phone. It didn't matter. My number always found me, always called me. I started noticing patterns. The calls didn't just happen at night, they knew when I was alone. When I laughed, when I cried softly in the darkness, when I whispered into my pillow. Every moment of privacy invaded. Every pause, every breath recorded and returned to me in that same warped, metallic timbre of my own voice. I stopped answering the calls after a while, tried leaving them to ring, tried ignoring the alerts, but ignoring it never helped. The phone still hummed in the dark, vibrating softly against the nightstand, waiting for me to acknowledge it. One night, exhausted, I finally picked it up, just to see. The screen glowed white, my own number at the top. The call duration, 0. I brought it to my ear. Silence, just the faint hum of static. Then it whispered, "You can't escape me." My stomach dropped. I dropped the phone. The vibration was no longer gentle. Now it pulsed sharply, matching my heartbeat. It echoed through my veins, into my bones, making me flinch with each throb. I could see the reflection of the screen in the dark window across the room. And in it, me. My face. But not quite right. The eyes too wide, the mouth stretched into an impossible grin. I tried to look away, tried to blink. My reflection didn't. It moved independently, leaning closer toward the glow of the phone. I ran to the bathroom, slamming the door, locking it. But the hum followed. It leaked under the cracks, through the vent, through the walls. My number called again. I didn't answer. It didn't matter. The sound of my own voice, twisted, warped, almost unrecognizable, was coming from everywhere, repeating every thought I had, every fear I whispered into the darkness. "Pick up," I screamed. The phone lit up again on the sink, vibrating like it had a pulse. I grabbed it with shaking hands. The call duration now read 9:59 again. And then it started counting down, slowly, deliberately. Tick, tick, each second hammering in my chest like a drum. I couldn't move. My hands were frozen. My lips parted, trying to scream, but my voice faltered. And then it whispered, softly, intimately, like it was in my own skull. "You shouldn't have picked up." The screen pulsed with static. A heartbeat echoed through the speaker, my own voice now intertwined with it, a chorus of fear, repetition, something alive. I couldn't look away. I couldn't put it down. And then, the phone started moving on its own. Sliding across the counter toward me, creeping inch by inch, vibrating violently, pulsing like a living thing. I felt it, not just in my hand, not just in the air, inside me, deep, trembling, like my veins had become wires carrying its signal. I fell to my knees. I couldn't breathe. My own number called me from inside the device. My own voice whispered secrets I hadn't spoken aloud. My own thoughts returned to me, transformed, alien, warped. Hours passed, or maybe seconds. I don't know. Time stopped. Only the pulse remained, counting down, sinking to my heartbeat, pulsing until my chest ached. Then the call stopped. The screen glowed softly. Call duration 9:59. Static hummed in the background. I whispered, barely audible, "It's still connected." And I knew it was. It doesn't matter if I leave town, change my number, buy a new phone, delete apps, factory reset everything. My number, my voice, my thoughts, they all reach me. They always will. Now every time my phone vibrates in my pocket, I jump. Every time the screen glows, I hesitate. Every alert, every notification feels like a heartbeat, a warning, a whisper. Pick up. And when I close my eyes at night, I can hear it. Softly, in the dark, the static of the dial tone merging with my own heartbeat, pulsing, whispering, "You shouldn't have picked up." I can feel it, connected, waiting, learning, patient, watching. I don't answer anymore. I don't dare. But the glow never leaves me, the hum never stops, and somewhere deep inside the rhythm of my own chest, I know it's still calling. Pick up.